Peace, peace, people. Welcome to Yemima's World, Jelly Moose's Cafe. I am your hostess, Yemima, and it is always good to be black in the land of the living once again. All right, so November is Indigenous Heritage Month. We are coming out of Hoodoo Heritage Month, where I did lots of stories about hoodoo and our ancestors. And now we have moved on into another month that we are honoring and celebrating our ancestors. Now, when we think of Indigenous Heritage Month, a lot of times we do not think of Black people, but we do know, or maybe we do not, that there were Black people here on the soil prior to Columbus setting sail in the ocean blue in 1492. There were Africans who came to these soils, to this land, and traded, and some went back to Africa, and some stayed and settled the land, and were the first people here. Now, I'm going to get some pushback. I already know I'm going to get some pushback from people who are adamant that we all come from Africa, and we do. Uh, just that some of us came here from Africa prior to the transatlantic slave trade, prior to the Ma'afa, and then there were some of us that got here that were forced here through the Ma'afa. I'm going to get some pushback on some Native American who people who don't look like us, who have a problem with us saying that we are native to this land. But there are just some things that just are unexplainable and don't really sit well with me in a lot of things. Words. Words have meaning. They have etymology. They have meanings. They are translated into the English language from different languages, and supposedly they mean the same thing. And so, where am I going with this? I'm going to do, of course, quite a few episodes, but I just want to get this out of the way. I know I'm going to get some pushback about Black Native Americans. I have friends, and I know I sound like a white person, right? I have friends that are Black and Native American. I have friends who are Black and are Native American. And so I know that there are some Black Native, Black Indigenous people. So this is our month as well. It is not just um, the quote unquote red man's month, it is also African and Indigenous people's month as well. If you go back to some of my to one of my stories for Hoodoo Heritage Month, I do a story on a woman who is Black and Indigenous. And in her story, she talks about um, why they call them red people. And she talked about how they would use the berries and it made their skin red. And the berries were to keep the mosquitoes and things away from them. And so when they were encountered, they were red. Um, Yeah, so that's why. Another reason too is uh, North America is further away from the sun than Africa, And depending on where you live, your phenotype, your melanin will adapt to the conditions or the climate. So, yes, we were here. Um, we weren't the only ones that were here. It is written and historically documented that the Native Americans um, came from Northeast Asia. And so the thing is, no one originated on this soil. No one just popped up out of some sand. No one just popped up out of a rock or fell out of a tree. You came from somewhere to this land. You had to have. And we know that Africa is the first land of the first people. So everyone eventually migrated out of Africa and explored and settled in different places. So even those that say they are the original first people of this land, they're simply saying they were the first to come here and settle the land. Again, they did not pop out of a bush. They had to come from somewhere. And some came from Northeast Asia. And how did they get to Northeast Asia? They came from Africa. So they came from Northeast Asia by way of Africa, and some came directly from Africa here, again, prior to the Ma'afa. So I'm going to read you someone who has done some research, and it is entitled Black Skin on Black Soil: The Erasure of Black Explorers in the History of the Americas. It's taken from a publication called Nappy Head Club, and the author of this article is Miriam Aziza Muhammad. All right, so let's see what she has to say. All right, so Christopher Columbus is a name that we know, and we've known it for seems like far too long. The whitewashed version of history has done him well, painting him as a courageous explorer, a brilliant navigator, and overall the person who discovered what is now America. Meanwhile, true history has reared its ugly head and revealed the horrific truth about what Columbus really did. Not only did he fail to discover anything, but he also participated in the acts of genocide against the natives of the land. Not only have new developments in research shown us that the land was already occupied when Columbus arrived, but that there were many Black explorers to take note of instead of him. Voyages took place on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria were not the remarkable or revolutionary trips that Columbus and his crew thought that they were. Though history has forgotten many of the people who made notable discoveries and contributions to society, we don't have to. Though the transatlantic slave trade brought many Africans to the New World, that was not the first time African feet touched American soil. Around 1311, 181 years before Columbus, Abu Bakr II of Mali Empire was said to have landed in the Americas, determined to find the limits of the ocean. Bakr abdicated his throne, leaving it to his younger brother, Mansa Musa, who would go on to be the richest man in history. About a century later, Juan Godino, an American conquistador, explored Florida along with Juan Ponce de Leon, who would later serve as the governor of Puerto Rico. Born in the Kingdom of Congo in 1487, the terms of his freedoms are still not completely understood by historians to this day. While some speculate that he had a father back home who sent him to Portugal to get a formal education, others assume that he was a slave who was later set free by his owner. Nevertheless, Godino made a name for himself as a conquistador throughout his life, searching for gold in several countries, including that of Hispaniola, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Guadalupe, and the Dominican Republic. Known as the first great African man in America, Estevanico or Esteban the Moor was an explorer from Azamor, Morocco, born in the year 1500. When the Portuguese government took control of his hometown around 1513, Estevanico and several other Moroccan citizens were taken captive and sold into slavery. Estevanico, with his owner, joined an expedition of Florida in 1528, led by Spanish explorer Alvar Nunes Cabeza de Vaca. And many years prior to Columbus' arrival in North America, African explorers were not only sailing across there for discovery purposes, but to trade items in the New World as well. And in his 1976 book titled They Came Before Columbus, Ivan van Sertima details the existence of African people who lived in ancient America. He explains that while traveling in Hispaniola, present day Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, Columbus found evidence that Africans had not only been to the land before, but also traded with the natives that lived there. Sertima explains how the natives not only recalled that the people they had traded with had black skin, but also that they carried gold tipped spears with them. In his second voyage, Columbus sent back samples of the spears to find out that they were made of guanin, which is a mix of gold, silver, and copper. It was later found out that guanin has origins in several of the Mandi languages in West Africa, including those of Mandingo, Kambunga, Toronko, Kankanka, Bambara, and Ve. Sertima writes that in Columbus's journal, gold is given as quena, while Guanin is recorded as an island and it cuts off, recorded as an island. Okay. These this information has remained hidden in the shadows, largely unknown due to lack of evidence, as well as the whitewashing of history. But now, thanks to Black researchers like Ivan Van Sertima and many others, we as a people can live with the knowledge of what those who came before us have done for society. We can now know the truth of how our ancestors risked their lives on long voyages and adventures to places that were once considered unknown. The history was once heavily whitewashed with the intention of keeping us in the dark and stealing our self worth. We no longer have to live this way. Now, with these newfound discoveries, we can hold our heads high, knowing that we have always been innovative and adventurous, ready to make strides and push boundaries with hopes of changing the world. Instead of mistakenly giving all the credit to Christopher Columbus, as history once did, we can learn about the explorers and settlers who sailed the seven seas to make Black history. All right, so that is the introduction for what's to come. If you look at the screen, there is a beautiful picture of array of Black and Indigenous people. I urge you to go back and look at the video, one of my hoodoo videos. I cannot remember the name, but if you look at the picture, you'll see that the woman is definitely Indigenous and Black. So we're going to be up for some things. I have lots of stories to bring for November. I have some children's stories that I'll be bringing. I have some stories from um, the Trail of Tears. I have some stories that I'll be bringing about Native American and Indigenous spirituality. Also, some creation stories. And then I'm going to top it off with some Thanksgiving stories about Thanksgiving and how the Native Americans, the indigenous people, were celebrating Thanksgiving long before Paleface showed up. So I hope you join me for the stories that are coming. I just wanted to do an introductory on yes, there are Black and Indigenous people, and yes, we were here before Columbus got here. Yeah. So if you're gonna get mad, that's fine. Leave it in the comments. You know the drill. Love yourself, love each other, give yourself some grace, give others some grace. Um, love your ancestors, honor your ancestors. They will honor you. We are our ancestors. It is November 4th. Tomorrow is election day. I feel like it's watch night service for our ancestors where they were watching in 1864 and wondering if or 1861 and wondering if the emancipation was going to be read the next day, if they were going to get their freedom, or if they were still going to be enslaved. And sometimes watch night service was if their family was still going to be together the next day. And we'll do an episode on that coming up. But until next time, family, please like, share, and subscribe. Please share this with your family who are Native, Black, and Indigenous. I have some information again coming up. So until next time, family, stay Black. Peace.